The weight of everything that had happened settled over Robert as he took his first step onto the docking ramp. The cold metal beneath his boots felt unfamiliar, as if he was stepping onto unknown ground rather than returning to the world he had known. The Kylo ship stood silent behind him, its towering presence a reminder of the battle fought, not one of weapons and bloodshed, but of will, trust, and something far more complex. The vastness of space stretched before him, a sea of stars twinkling against the darkness, but his thoughts remained tethered to what he was leaving behind. His pulse was steady, his breath controlled, yet a part of him hesitated, as if an unseen force held him in place. He had been given his freedom. He could leave, return to his people, his mission, his war. Yet, the feeling of something unfinished lingered in his chest. As he made his way down the ramp, a voice echoed through the air behind him. "You're hesitating." Robert turned sharply, his blue eyes locking onto V's form. She stood at the entrance of the ship, her silhouette framed against the dim interior lights. The once commanding presence she had carried now seemed softened, though the strength in her posture remained. "I'm not hesitating," Robert said, though the words felt hollow even as he spoke them. V tilted her head slightly, studying him in that calculating way she always did, her black eyes holding an unreadable depth. "Then why are you still here?" Robert exhaled, turning his gaze toward the stars. He didn't have an answer. Not one that made sense. He had spent his entire captivity fighting her influence, resisting the pull that had formed between them. Now, with his freedom granted, the moment felt hollow. "You told me I was free to go," he said, finally breaking the silence. Veer took a slow step forward. "And yet, something is keeping you here." He clenched his jaw, forcing himself to focus. "I don't belong here, Veer. My people." "Your people are out there," she interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "Waiting for you to return. You've earned your freedom, Robert. But what if that's not the only choice you have?" Robert turned back to face her fully, the tension between them thickening once more. "What are you saying?" Veer stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "You felt it. The connection. The balance." Her voice was quieter now, edged with something almost hesitant. "You know this wasn't just about survival." He did know. It was why he hadn't walked away yet. A long silence stretched between them, filled with the unspoken words neither of them dared to say. Veer took a slow breath. "You could leave. Go back to your people, your war, your fight. Or..." She hesitated just for a moment before continuing. "You could stay." Robert's heart pounded at her words. Stay? The thought should have been absurd. He was a soldier, a fighter pilot, a man with a duty to return to. The war wasn't over. His mission wasn't done. And yet, standing here, looking at her, he realized something had changed within him. She wasn't his captor anymore. She had given him something no one else ever had, a choice. He took a slow step toward her, his voice steady but thoughtful. "And if I stay? What then?" V's lips curled into the faintest smile, but there was uncertainty in her eyes, a rare sight on someone so confident. "Then we find out together." The answer wasn't what he expected. There was no manipulation, no demand, no battle for dominance. Just an open offer. Robert swallowed hard, his mind warring with his instincts. He had spent so long resisting, convinced that giving in would mean surrender. But now he saw it for what it truly was, not surrender, but acceptance. Acceptance that something had shifted inside him. That this connection wasn't something forced, but something real. His gaze flickered between V and the vastness of space behind him. He could leave. Return to the fight, continue his mission. That path was clear. Or, he could choose the unknown. For the first time in his life, the idea of an uncertain future didn't terrify him. Robert exhaled slowly, his decision settling in his chest. He met V's gaze and nodded. "Then let's find out." Her eyes softened just slightly, though she masked it quickly. Without another word, she turned and stepped back onto the ship. This time, Robert followed willingly. The ramp retracted behind him, sealing his fate, not as a prisoner, not as a captive, but as something else entirely. As the ship powered up, its engines humming beneath his feet, Robert realized that whatever lay ahead would change him even more than the war ever had. And for the first time in a long time, he was ready.